Hi, I'm Madam Bombati, and today I'm going to show you how to make post-apocalyptic looking armor using texture, painting techniques, as well as real rust. All of the items that I mentioned in the video will have links down in the description below. So yeah, let's get started. After you've made your basic armor shape, this will be a forearm piece, and have rounded the edges, take that Dremel, grab a sanding bit, and just hack at the edges. Try not to make it uniform, bring the sanding bit in some places, go at different angles, etc. The purpose is to make the edges of your armor piece look rough and ragged. Now with the same sanding bit, create scratches across random parts of the armor. You don't want to make too many of these. Stick to the edges and maybe only a couple of deep grooves near the middle. Now take a different bit, I used a cone-shaped grinding wheel bit, to add a hammered metal look to your armor. Feel free to experiment with other Dremel bits. Make some of the divots deeper than the others. Keep in mind that you may have to go in a little more than you think, because once we hit the foam with the heat gun and then paint this piece, it may make some of the textures not as noticeable. Take your heat gun to the foam to heat form it if you haven't already, and also to tighten the foam back up in preparation for priming. If you see that some of your grooves or divots weren't deep enough and fade away after hitting it with the heat gun, you may have to go back and re-add some. The primer I use for foam is called Plastidip, specifically black for anything that will be metal, which you can find at Home Depot or Lowe's. I warm it up by sticking it in a bowl of hot water for a few minutes. Spray a light coat of black Plastidip onto your armor pieces evenly. Make sure to wear a proper respirator and wash your hands thoroughly if you get any of it on your skin. When the first coat is dry, add another coat. I usually add about 3 coats of Plastidip to my pieces. Now the painting starts. For the first base coat, I use DecoArt's Gloss Enamel Shivering Silver and Apple Barrel's Black mixed together to make an onyxy color. You will have to find the proper ratio of silver to black to get the color that you want. Cover the armor piece completely with your base coat color. Depending on the paint you use, you may need a couple of layers, but I find that DecoArt's Gloss Enamel colors have excellent coverage. Once the base coat is dry, take a chip brush and we will start to add different shades of silver onto the piece to help it look less uniform. I'll be mixing that same enamel silver with Folk Art Ice Blue Metallic. Again, feel free to experiment with different mixes of silver. The more layers you add, or slightly off silvers, the more realistic the piece will look. Using your chip brush, dip it into the paint, wipe off most of it on a paper towel, and then take some swipes of the armor. You may not be able to see the difference in this video, but it will be apparent in person. Now that our armor looks more metallic, it's definitely too clean. This is where things start to get dirty and we start applying a black wash. Brush on black paint everywhere on your armor, or in small sections at a time depending on how big your piece is. You don't want the paint to dry. Then wipe or smudge off with a paper towel. You may have to go back and do this a couple of times to get into some of the details. And don't forget the edges. In case you overdid it slightly with the black wash, you can always go back to one of the silver or silver mixes you used previously and very lightly brush color in spots back onto the armor with your chip brush. Now the fun part, painting rust. I use a mix of Folk Art's Raw Sienna, Burnt Sienna, Dark Brown, True Burgundy, and Perfect Purple. Mix and match, experiment, and make your own rust color layers similar to what we did for the silver. I start off by using a normal thin brush to apply the color around the edges, then I use a chip brush to sweep the color over the edges of the armor. I like to use Daiso Japan stencil brushes for this. They are only $1.50. Here I am creating another rust color layer, this time adding a little bit of the perfect purple to the mix. My first layer was more of a brownish color, this layer will have more of a reddish tint to it. It's messy, but also feel free to buff out the paint with your hands if you accidentally applied it on too thick. If some of your scratches and detail marks got lost in all the paint, you can go back with a thin, fine brush and black paint to paint in some of the cracks and make them pop again. And now, science! Creating real rust. This method I found from Kamui Cosplay, so I cannot claim it as my own. You will need salt, white vinegar, and 3% hydrogen peroxide. Take 1 part salt, 4 parts vinegar, and 6 parts hydrogen peroxide and mix them into a spray bottle. You will also want to pour a little bit of hydrogen peroxide into something you'll be able to dip a brush into, like a sauce container. You will need a stiff brush, I prefer my stencil brush, iron filings, which you can buy on Amazon, Q-tips, and PVA or Elmer's clear glue. Take the clear glue and apply it to the areas that you want to be rusted. Use the Q-tips to spread the glue around. Add the iron filings to the areas of the armor with glue. Spritz the iron filings with your spray bottle mix. Dip your brush into the hydrogen peroxide mix and dab the iron filings to really get them to activate into rust. Once the piece is fully dry, spray it with a couple of coats of a matte clear coat to help prevent the iron filing pieces from falling off and to keep your lovely paint job protected. And there you have it! What a lovely piece of rusted metal! Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments down below. I'd also like to see if you've made anything using my tutorials, so feel free to send me photos of things that you have made. As you can tell, I love all things post-apocalyptic. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.